welcome. Good morning, good afternoon, good night, good evening, depending on where you are in the globe. I hope that you're having a wonderful day. I want to welcome you to today's Spiritual Insight Word. And I have a word from the Lord for us, the body of Christ. And it is related to this topic that I have been talking about, which is the scapegoat child and claiming their inheritance and getting their restoration of their exchanged destiny back. So I'm going to be expounding on this topic, but more of sharing a story, a real life experience of someone that has been through this this journey, just to bring it to life and just to illustrate what we have been talking about in the previous 3 videos. So I'm going to be sharing this young woman's story. But before I do that, if this is your first time joining us, welcome, welcome, welcome. I really appreciate your presence here. Feel free to join this family. We talk about different biblical topics and concepts, and I provide some spiritual insight to help you understand the principles of God, the commandments of God, in order that you may live your life according to the purpose that God has created you to achieve. And that is what I do. From time to time, I also share prophetic words as imparted upon me by the Holy Spirit, with instructions to go ahead and share with the body of Christ. But today, this is a spiritual insight into this topic of the scapegoat child. Okay, and if this is a return visit, thank you so much for staying in the family. So let's get started. Okay, so this story is a young woman's story. She has shared her story on social media, and I'm going to put the link to her original story down in the description box, so that for those that want to hear her story directly from her, you can go to that link and you'll be taken to the channel where the story first aired. But as I was listening to it, I quickly recognized that this is a scapegoat's story, and it was interesting to me because it was just a confirmation of what I am doing on this channel to educate the body of Christ, to provide that knowledge. And it was just really insightful for me. It gave me that encouragement to continue with what I am doing on this topic, in order that the body of Christ may have that knowledge. Because according to Hosea chapter 4 verse 6, it says, "My people perish from the lack of knowledge." So that lack of knowledge is really what makes God's people perish. And he just wants the body to be provided with knowledge, to increase their knowledge so they can live the life that he created them to live. Okay, so I will start with this young woman's story, and as I do that, I will also refer to the previous videos, the topics we've talked about, just so you can see that application of what we've talked about, the concepts and the principles, to a real life story. And then I will also point out some important things in that story as I share it. Okay, so this is a young woman who says in her own words that she always felt rejected by her own biological family. So growing up, she always felt left out. She always felt this rejection. She always felt blamed for everything. So this is consistent with a scapegoat child, which is this is a big characteristic of that. And so she left the family in the village. She left that area and moved to the city to fend for herself. And she ended up living on her own and trying to find employment to have a source of income so that she could support herself. Again, this is typical of scapegoat children. They end up moving away from the family unit, so they will end up leaving. After these experiences, they tend to push the child out. Remember, we talked about the scapegoat being pushed into the wilderness and being left there. So that is from the book of Leviticus chapter 16 verse 6 to 8. So that taking the scapegoat and pushing them off to the wilderness. So we see that in real life, where the girl left the family where they were living, where she grew up, and she moved to the city to just fend for herself. Okay, so when she went to the city, she was looking for employment, and she ended up doing menial jobs, moving from one employer to another. Some employers were not kind to her, and so she kept on moving, and it was a challenging life. It was a difficult life. She dropped out of school. She could not continue with school. So these are all experiences of the wilderness, right? It's a wilderness experience. The lack of resources, lack of support, the struggle to get ahead, and it seems as though you're just going round and round in circles and not making any headway. So this was her experience, and then she had no contact with her biological family at this point. She was just focused on herself. And at this point, she met some really kind people along the way, and I'm going to call them divine helpers, who God put along that way in that wilderness to guide her, to sort of provide for her what she needed in that moment so that she would not die, she would not perish. So she met two notable couples. So the first couple, they gave her sort of a job, like she was helping around the house, doing household chores, and she'd get paid for it. But they introduced her to the church. They introduced Christ to her. They would go to church with her, and she developed a relationship with God through that. And so she really loved to know more about God, to know more about what Jesus Christ has done. And so that was the beginning of her journey with God, I would say, her spiritual journey. So she loved to sing, so she would sing praises and all of that. And after some time, she had to leave that family, she had to leave that couple and move on. But she took that experience of knowing God and having that relationship with God. Faith was growing, and she was going to church, so she took that with her. I would say that was the purpose of meeting that couple, to impart that on her, and we can see why that would be so significant in her story later on. And so she continued looking for menial jobs. Then she got another job, another couple again, and they were really helpful to her, and they opted to send her back to school because she had dropped out of school. So they put her back to school, paid for her education, so she was able to continue with that. But during this time, remember, she had no contact with her biological family. It was very limited. This family, the lady in this family always encouraged her to mend the relationship with her family. And during this time, she was also facing some depression, some attacks where they were more spiritual in nature, and at times she would just feel this urge to take her own life. Like, this urge would just come up upon her. It's a spirit, right? And so she was facing these issues, and the couple would pray over her and pray for her. And then this lady would say, maybe this has to do with your family. You need to reconcile the differences with your family, get back together, and stuff like that. So she tried to reach out to her biological family. She tried to reach out to her mom. She bought gifts and tried to send them to her mother, sort of like icebreakers, just to start talking and start reestablishing that relationship with her family, with her mother. So they started talking, and this couple was taking care of her. They paid for her school fees. She was able to go back to school and finish her education and all of that. But when she reached out back to her family, her biological family, she started getting a lot of attacks, especially from the siblings. So one sister in particular was very harsh with her, and this sister was putting things out on social media that were accusatory against this young woman, the scapegoat child, right? And she would blame the sister for many things that were going wrong in her life, like blaming the scapegoat. Again, we see that that is characteristic of scapegoat children, that they get blamed for everything, whether it's their fault or not. That's the default for all the blame, right? And so this was happening with her over social media, and she couldn't understand why, or the meaning of all of that. Again, that's characteristic of scapegoat children who are not aware of why that is happening or the spiritual implications of it. So anyway, she just decided to ignore it because she knew that she was innocent, and she just focused on her own life. I think she has started writing some worship songs. She was good in singing, like she discovered that was her talent. So she wanted to develop this gift, this talent, and to serve God and all of that. And then after some time, these attacks from her sibling just got worse and worse, and she couldn't understand. So she asked a friend of hers, a close friend of hers, who was also prayerful, to start praying for her. So this friend would pray for her consistently. Sometimes they would pray together, right? And she used to sing a lot of worship songs, and that's really key because she was maintaining that strong relationship between her and God. Remember in my previous video I said the scapegoat child has to have that relationship with God, because that is what, one, will protect her, and that was what will guide her and keep her, right? So this is what was happening with this young woman. Then one time, this sister who was blaming her and putting stuff out on social media, negative things about on social media, posted a manifesto on social media. And I call it a manifesto because it indicated what she was planning to do with her life. And so she posted it on social media, and she put there that she blames this young woman, the scapegoat child, for the losses that she has faced in her life, mostly financial losses and other losses. And this scapegoat child, this young woman, is responsible for all the negative things that have happened in that sister's life and in the family's life. She's a bad person. She is to be blamed and held responsible. And because of what she has done, this sister is going to take her own life, and all the blame should be apportioned to this scapegoat child, this young woman, and that she should be held responsible. And then this sister had posted this message, and so everybody who was coming on social media and seeing this message was leaving comments about this scapegoat child, this young woman, saying she's very evil, she's mean, she should be arrested, she should be something needs to be done, she should be held responsible. And lo and behold, the following day, that sister who had posted that hateful message took her own life. She carried out the plan that she had put in the manifesto, and she ended up losing her life. And so when that happened, people were posting on social media, rest in peace, and all those messages. Meanwhile, she had blocked this scapegoat child, the young woman, out of her social media. So this scapegoat child was in the dark. So she was not aware of what was happening. She was not aware of all the accusations. She was not aware of this crime that was said that she has committed, and that people were pointing fingers at her and blaming her. So all of a sudden, she starts receiving some phone calls with people just telling her really mean things, and she's confused. And so she reached out to family members, and the family members were really harsh with her, blaming her for the death of their sister and all these things. So she was so devastated. She was lost. She just could not believe that this was real. But this is the experience of a scapegoat child, right? All of the blame, all of the guilt has to go on that one child, to carry all that on their shoulders. So she just went into prayer, but she was really suffering from a lot of depression, devastation, shock, grief, like everything combined. And then friends were deserting her that time because they were all pointing these fingers. And so at a later video, I'm going to talk about evil declarations and how that happens, where everybody is repeating that accusation. Even people who are not members of that family, people who just went on social media and saw that message, and they started responding back with the same accusations, the same blame to that girl. So it's repetitive, like so many people repeating that same word of blame, and so many fingers pointing at her, right? It just compounds this scapegoat phenomena. So it's not just the family, it's beyond. And so you can imagine all of that on this young girl's head. It was too much for her to bear. And so she was crying to God, and she had one friend who told her that I'm here for you, we can pray together. So this friend started a prayer group, and they were praying for this girl even when she could not pray for herself because she just didn't have the strength. That this friend was praying for her, and that's really, really important. And so she tried to go for the burial service. Of course, the sister had said that this scapegoat child, the young woman, should not attend or participate in any burial activities. So she was locked out of that. Even that which would have brought her some closure, she could not participate in. So she attended, but she watched from a distance, just to be there to witness it for herself, and then she left. So she thought that she was dating someone, and she thought that maybe this person will be my biggest support. And so she thought at that time that she didn't want to lose the boyfriend, because if she did, she would really be devastated. So she decided to get pregnant for him, and she thought that if she got pregnant for him and they had a baby, that would keep him in a relationship. That was a mistake that she made in that state of just being so broken and so devastated. So she got pregnant for the boyfriend, and when she told the boyfriend about the pregnancy, he denied it and he jumped ship. So he left, and so she was left all alone, and it further compounded her feelings of abandonment and her feelings of loneliness. But the friend kept on praying for her and praying with her. So throughout that process, we can see that even in the Bible, it tells us in Matthew chapter 10 verse 36 that a man's enemies are members of his own household. These were the words of Jesus Christ himself. And why I stand in agreement with that word is that through this experience, this young woman who's the scapegoat child had a dream. And scapegoat children will always have lots of dreams, and their dreams are sort of prophetic dreams, or their dreams tell them more about what is happening in their lives, because they're going through these experiences, and God is also trying to communicate with them, to show them behind the scenes, the curtains behind what is happening in their natural life, which is the spiritual. So the dreams are the entryway into the spiritual. And so scapegoat children will always have all these realistic, sort of prophetic or insightful dreams. So she was having those dreams. And as she was going through this experience and asking God all these questions, she had a dream where she saw her nieces, so the late sister's children, were playing, and they came to her in the dream and they said, "Auntie, didn't you know that they only needed one bottle of your blood?" And she said, "Really?" And the children said, "Yeah, they only needed one bottle of your blood, and they wouldn't get it. They couldn't get it from you. That's why. That is why all this happened." And so she woke up. So then she was wondering what this means. But in reality, the sister who passed away had gone to a witch doctor, Sangoma or Babalao, whatever you call it in your region. So she had gone to an occult practitioner, so a witch doctor, and the sister was looking for wealth, prosperity, money, riches. And this occult practitioner, this witch doctor, this Babalao Sangoma, told her it's possible, but she would have to sacrifice a family member. in order for that to happen and be successful. So this sister had provided the scapegoat child's name as the sacrifice, as the one to be given up for sacrifice. Again, this is quite indicative of a scapegoat child experience. Anything negative that is to happen, they will assign that to the scapegoat child. That is the role of the scapegoat child. So lo and behold, her name was provided that she is supposed to die for rituals so that this sister could get rich, could get all the money in the world. And so this scapegoat child did not know these plans, these evil plans that were being conceived at evil altars about her life, about her destiny. She had no idea. She was working hard. She was going back to school. She met divine helpers. She was starting to sing. She was starting to discover her purpose, and she was starting to move in her purpose. She had no idea a family member was going to an evil altar, concocting all sorts of evil plans to end her life prematurely, so that blood, her blood, could be used in an evil ritual to enrich that sister's life, to change the destiny of that sister. So you see what I'm saying about the exchange of destiny. It happens, guys. It happens in real life. This is one example. This is just one example. Her own sister went to try and exchange her destiny, to take that destiny to get financial blessings, and that sister would have a destiny of premature death, die at an early age, before she got married, before having her children, before realizing her purpose, which is to sing and worship and praise God. All that would be cut off, and she would end up dead, and that sister would end up with a different destiny of riches and prosperity. So that exchange was planned at one evil altar, at a witch doctor or occult practitioner's shrine, and the plans were set in motion. Of course, this scapegoat child had been praying, and the friend had been praying for her. Remember, the friend had set up a prayer chain to pray for her. And so as these prayers were going on, these evil spirits that were released and projected at her from these evil altars could not accomplish their goal. Maybe they tried to attack her, which is why she was having those urges to take her own life. But the family in which she was living with, the ones that paid for her school, they were prayerful. And so they would pray for her. Anytime she would get these urges, they would pray for her, pray over her. And so the power of God is more dominant than any other power in the world. So that spirit would be subdued, and it wouldn't achieve its purpose on her life. So that happened over time. It happened over time, and those evil spirits could not achieve their purpose, because these attacks are also time limited. So I think the time expired for the attacks, and the evil spirits had to return back to the evil altar, having unaccomplished their goal. And what happens is that because they could not accomplish their goal with the intended target, they go to the person who had requested for those services. So they go back to that person, because those evil spirits, once projected out, cannot return void. It's like Isaiah chapter 55 that says God's word is like the rain, and once it has been sent forth, it will not return void. So that's a principle, a spiritual principle, that once spirits are released to accomplish something, they have to accomplish what they were set out to do. They cannot return back void, not having accomplished that goal. So in this case, it's not God's word. It's evil words that were spoken at an evil altar. But because those spirits were released to cause premature death through suicide or through taking one's own life, that those spirits had to look for another body to possess and achieve their goal. So they went to the person that sought those services, which was the sister. So the sister ended up taking her own life in order for those spirits to have accomplished their goal, right? She was part of the covenant. So because they backfired on the intended target, they go back to the sender. So they went back to the sender and they achieved their purpose with the sender. So she ended up taking her own life instead of the scapegoat child. So the scapegoat child was protected. That is why it says in the book of Isaiah, chapter 54, verse 17, that no weapon formed against you shall prosper, and every tongue that rises to condemn you, you shall condemn it, because this is the heritage of the servants of the Lord, and this is their vindication from me, declares the Lord. So any scapegoat child, you have that power. Once you form a relationship with God through Jesus Christ, his blood is more superior. They could not take her blood. Remember, they said they needed 1 bottle of blood from her. That was the reason for this human sacrifice, that she would suffer premature death so that they would collect 1 bottle of blood for that ritual, for that sister to get rich. But because she accepted Jesus Christ in her life, if they were going to take 1 bottle of blood from her, they were taking it mixed with Jesus' blood, because Jesus is in her. Jesus is in her life. And so his blood is in her life too. It's just not her blood anymore. It's Jesus's blood. And they couldn't get it. It's as simple as that. They could not get it. They could not touch her, because that blood is a pure blood. It was blood that was formed without original sin. So they could not touch it. They could not come close to her. And that is why those plans failed. And she was able to be safe. And so with this young woman, once she got pregnant with a boyfriend and the boyfriend abandoned her, she was feeling so depressed, devastated, abandoned. And she was hiding herself inside for the whole duration of the pregnancy, because she was also carrying the guilt of being pregnant out of wedlock, that it's fornication and that it's against God's laws, right? So the whole pregnancy, she was carrying this. She didn't want people to see the baby. That friend came to visit her and she would say, this is the neighbor's baby. She had shame, a lot of shame. She was carrying a lot of shame. So that is also characteristic of scapegoat children, of people who are going through a scapegoat experience, that they carry a lot of shame as a result of all the guilt. And so at the end, this friend kept on asking her, why don't you take the baby back to the neighbor? You said it's the neighbor's child. And she kept on saying, I'll take the baby later. And after a while, it was tiresome to lie. So she just came out with the truth and said, this is my child, this is what happened. So the friend told her, oh my God, that's a blessing, because there's people who are barren, and I would have not wanted to be barren. I would want to have a child by any means. So when she had that, her perception changed and she started to look at this child differently. And then she decided to go out with her child and embrace the child as a blessing. And then one woman saw her, and this woman said, oh, were you pregnant before? I thought I saw you before and you looked pregnant. So she said, yep. She owned up and she said, yes, I was pregnant and I've had a baby. And the lady said, oh, wow, really? Because all around the rumor was that you were barren and that you had gone to the hospital and they had removed all of your reproductive organs and you're unable to have any children. But now you said you were pregnant and you've delivered a baby. She said, yeah, I delivered a healthy baby boy. And so she was like, oh, wow. So she told the lady, you know, I am just like Penina, the mother of Samuel. She was barren, she was scorned, she was ridiculed, but God gave her a baby to silence all the accusations. And so she felt empowered at that point. She didn't know all the accusations upon her that people were saying she was barren. She didn't know all that. She was innocent, didn't even know, had no knowledge of it, was not even aware. But this baby came to silence some of those accusations about her. She had no idea. So she went back home and embraced this baby, embraced what happened with her, with the baby, as God's way of silencing all her enemies. And so after that, she became stronger in prayer, and after realizing what was happening with her life. So after that, she started talking with her mother. Her mother started falling sick and would get sick, and the mother wouldn't go to hospital. So when she told the mother to seek medical advice, the mother said, no, this is more spiritual than medical. And so when she talked to her mother some more, the mother confessed about going to the witch doctor to seek advice. And the witch doctor had advised the mother that this scapegoat is to blame for all of the problems in the family. And so now the mother is getting sick, and it's as a result of the things that she did at the witch doctor, the occult practitioner's place. And so this also really hits the point that we've been talking about, which is that the scapegoat is blamed for everything. And the occult practitioners, the practitioners of the dark world, of the darkness of this world, they also facilitate this. So this occult practitioner facilitated this, right? Because this is from the kingdom of darkness. Remember, we say the scapegoat in the book of Leviticus 16, verse 6 to 8. It means the goat of Azazel in Hebrew. Azazel is a fallen angel. He is the father of the demons, one of the fathers of the demons. And so it has its roots in the kingdom of darkness. And so the practitioners of that kingdom, of course, will support that. They will not be against it. They will support it and further entrench it so that it continues. And so this is what happened with this girl when the witch doctor told her and pointed the finger at the girl and said, yep, she is the cause of all the problems in the family. So it further entrenched those accusations, the blaming and the driving away of the girl from the family. And so afterwards, this girl said she forgave her mother, and she started to pray for her mother. She started to pray for the healing of her mother and for God to forgive the mother for those sins, right? And she started to witness to the mother. And because without forgiveness, she would also be at fault, because we're told to forgive others so that God may forgive us. So that was really strong of her to do. To forgive her own family for what happened. But over time, she has been mending that relationship with the mother and praying for the mother and just praying for the full recovery of her mother, so that, she said, so that there's not another death in the family, because she is the one who's going to be blamed. And so she has been reconciling with the family, but from not from a place of weakness, not from a place of guilt, not from a place of why are you doing this to me, or why did you do this from me. No, she is doing it from a place of empowerment, which is my whole goal, is to empower the body of Christ so that this happens, so that they can go back to those families from a different place, from a place of empowerment, because they have been empowered by Christ Jesus, and come in to heal that family, remove the toxicity in the family, and introduce a new way of living in that family that is not based on blaming one child and elevating another, but seeing them as Christ sees us, with the love that he shared with us, seeing family members through those eyes, right? And forgiveness and all of that. But that can only happen at the end, once this scapegoat has been through this wilderness experience, they have come into contact with God and they have covenanted with God. They have rejected that evil covenant and all of the plans that have been made in evil altars, so that Christ is now their family member. God is their father and Christ is their elder brother, and they can claim their inheritance from God, and they get that protection from all the harm of all those accusations coming at them. They are protected, as it happened with this young woman in the story that I've just illustrated. So she was like cocooned in this shell, and no weapon that was formed against her was ever able to prosper. And so she came out of it at the end, to come back and reveal the power of God and give a witness, give a testimony. And then at this point, the mother had nothing to say. The mother was confessing and asking for forgiveness because the power of darkness has been defeated at that point. So I hope that this story is an encouragement to you. The link to the full story is down in the description box. You can listen to it yourself. This young, courageous, empowered African girl is in her ministry, singing, worshiping God, and fully in her purpose, which is what we hope for everyone. And I am so happy to be sharing this story, although it broke my heart when I first heard it. But I know that this is the real experience of people in the body of Christ. People are going through this experience. It is real. And it just encouraged me to keep on doing this, to provide these spiritual insights in order to empower the body of Christ. So thank you so much. I don't want to take more of your time. I look forward to sharing another word in this topic. So God bless you and have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.